as the brand grows, my donation capabilities grow and we're able to make more progress on the current initiatives that we're working on.
This is the Safari. The Safari is a tour around the consumer, brand, and retailing industry. And we have the great privilege here at my company, Traub, to really be exposed to many of the great minds of the industry who are forming and shaping the future of many different parts of the consumer brand and retail world. And I felt it was quite interesting for us to be able to not only learn from all of those people as we do every day, but memorialize it into a podcast, which could then be shared with many of our friends and clients and you, obviously, the listener.
Hi, this is Kate Durgee, and today on the Safari, I'm speaking with Kendra Kolb Butler, founder of Alpyn Beauty, a clean skincare brand infused with plant-based ingredients harvested from Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Kendra and I talk about building a brand from her backyard, the impact of sustainable beauty, and how important it is to believe in yourself as a founder and entrepreneur. I loved this conversation with Kendra, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so here we are today. I'm so thrilled to introduce one of my absolute favorites and long time friend, Kendra Kolb Butler, founder of Alpyn Beauty. Welcome, Kendra.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to see you and be here with you today.
Oh, I feel this is so much fun because for our listeners, Kendra and I worked together, 25 years ago or however long it was, 20 years ago. And to see what you have done and what you've accomplished since those early days, I'm thrilled to talk about the brand that you have created. That's Alpyn Beauty. So speaking of Alpyn Beauty, I am seeing you in the most beautiful location. Here we are in Manhattan, New York, and you have this gorgeous backdrop of Jackson Hole, Wyoming with snow, and it's April.
Yeah. We can snow on Memorial Day here. Actually, it has in the past couple of years. So the winter is long, but it's worth it because the summer is so stunningly beautiful.
So beautiful. Well, I want to talk, Kendra, because you and I have known each other for a very long time, but I'm excited to talk about your journey and where you are now and again, how much you have accomplished. But I think we should start with the story behind Alpyn Beauty and truly, what inspired you to start the brand and why you live in Jackson Hole, Wyoming now.
That's a good place to start.
Yes.
So none of this was planned. I think I felt the need for a change in my life. I was working in Manhattan for 20 years. I wouldn't change that for the world. I met a lot of great people, had amazing people in my life like you who taught me various things and helped guide my career path. But after 20 years, I felt like something was not right. Like I felt that I really needed to press the reset button on life. I needed a change of pace. I needed a change of environment. I was feeling overwhelmed by the, toxins and like lots of people. And I made a decision to relocate and take a couple months to go back to nature and get some fresh air and just kind of press the reset button on life. And I chose this small town in the northwest corner of Wyoming called Jackson Hole. And the idea was to come stay here for a couple months and go right back to Manhattan. And here I'm sitting here 9 years later, still in Jackson Hole.
Which is not a bad place to be, even with the snow in April. So what made you decide to build this brand? I know your background, but maybe to talk a little bit about how your background influenced, obviously, what you have created today.
Good question. So when I left working with you, I went into clinical skincare and I worked for a very famous dermatologist named Dr. Dennis Gross. He's a Manhattan dermatologist, genius. He was a wonderful mentor to me. I was with him for about 12 years. And that's where I really cut my teeth in clinical skincare, ingredient interactions on skin, how to write a skincare formula. And I loved clinical skincare. But when I had this like burnout, and I moved to Jackson Hole, I thought, I'm going to continue my skincare journey and I'll open these little beauty stores locally in this community. I'll open a little beauty apothecary. I'll still be able to teach women about skincare. So that was the plan. That went sideways because I quickly realized that living in a high altitude mountain climate, your skin behaves differently than it does in lower altitude, like New York City, Los Angeles, or Miami. So I move out here, I open these beauty stores, I'm selling all these great lines, but the women coming in are complaining about their skin. And they're saying to me, you don't know what it's like here. You came from New York City. In a mountainous region, there's very little humidity in the air. You're high elevation, so you're getting exposure to sun damage, hyperpigmentation. Everybody was coming into my shops with this like very challenged skin,
Right.
and nothing that I was selling in the stores was working for them. So I knew I had to find a solution.
So what did you do? How did you even know where to begin? Or I know you've talked about your backyard and turning that into a brand, but where do you start?
It was, they say necessity is the mother of invention, or
Hmm.
you have to solve your own problem, and that's your business idea. And that's kind of where it started. Is I was just like I didn't know what to do. All the products that I was selling in the store were getting returned. The women in the community were unhappy and complaining. And I was sitting in my backyard one day just thinking, these stores are going to go out of business. And I remember the exact moment, Kate, it was like a light bulb. Like I focused in on the wild plants that all around me, and I'm looking at the forest and I'm thinking, okay, what is growing here? Like these plants that have found a way to adapt over hundreds of years of evolution to live in the same extreme climate that's wreaking havoc on our skin. They are juicy, hydrated, flourishing. And what can we learn from nature? And what if I wrote a skincare formula that had clinical ingredients, because I still very much believe in clean clinicals, but I layered in some of these plants that have found a way to adapt in this mountainous region and do very well here. And it was just a test. And I wrote the formula, mixed everything together, got the samples in these little tiny sample pots. I brought them into my beauty stores and I just started handing them out just to see what would happen.
Yeah.
And shockingly, it worked. And it worked like really well. But within, a week of me starting to hand out these samples to everybody in the town, I couldn't walk through the grocery store, or I couldn't do like a yoga class without a woman coming up to me and like putting her hands on my shoulders and like shaking my shoulders and being like, what did you give me
Yeah.
in that
I need the
pot?
goods. I need the goods.
Yes. Like this is like in Kendra, I've lived here my whole life. This is the first thing that I've ever put on my face that worked. And the only thing I was doing different from every other skincare brand in the space is I was using the same clinical actives. I just layered in some of these wild plants that were exposed to the same climate that was wreaking havoc, on the skin. And that was the solve.
That's incredible. So you have this captive audience there in Jackson Hole, and they've been waiting for this. They want the goods, and you've given it to them. So then, how do you convince nationally, these retailers? Like, what was your first step? Where did you take it next, out of going local and then taking it national?
I was really scared to start a skincare line. So even when I knew, that I had this concept that worked, I'm like, geez, I'm not an influencer. I'm not a celebrity. I'm not independently wealthy. Like, how can I start this? I didn't think I could do this. I didn't think I could take it nationally. And so I kind of did a lot of nothing for a short period of time. And, the demand grew because as women, as humans, as people, whenever we find something that we like, what do? We tell our friends, we
Right.
tell our relatives. So word of mouth was spreading. So I was getting a lot of calls into the beauty stores saying, I want to buy this cream, that my mother, brother, father, sister, aunt bought. And I'm saying, no, I'm not selling it. Like I don't sell the cream. It was just an experiment. I was just testing it out. But I was put in touch with Annie Jackson from Credo Beauty. And she asked me if I would fly out to San Francisco. And I flew out to meet with this amazing independent retailer. Love them so much. And I gave her the little sample that I was handing out in the stores. And I had a marketing one sheet. I wrote some ingredients in a benefit on a piece of paper. And I sat in front of her and she said, I believe in this. This is exactly what the Credo client customer embodies. Like, we're going to take your brand because the ethos are very much aligned.
Incredible. So you didn't even have packaging. You
I
had
didn't
nothing.
I didn't have a brand. And I said to her, I said, Annie, I don't have a brand. Like I don't sell this. I just this was an idea. And she said, well, you should make it because we want to buy it. So Credo was our first retailer. And then kind of at the same time, Goop reached out. I got in touch with Jean Godfrey June. Goop. I'd sent her a sample and she was like, I love this sample. We want to take it. So I actually had commitments from 2 national retailers before I got the courage to go into production. And that was just the way that I did it. I mean, It can be done other ways, but for me, I had so much trepidation around outlaying the money, putting myself at risk, and then not selling it anywhere. So I actually pitched it to a couple retailers before
That's
I started.
incredible. But that goes to show you, okay, I'm just going to take a little credit there for your PR background and how to spin it and how to pitch it. But that is an amazing story. The fact that you didn't even have the line, you didn't even have the bottle or the production or any of that, but they bought into the story and the belief and the recognition that you're onto something.
The formulas, I think that they tried the formulas and they were like, wow, this really works.
Yeah.
So, with that commitment, we started the brand with, under $100,000, I think at the time. And we went into production on 4 products, very basic, a cleanser, a moisturizer, a serum, and an eye cream. We just had 4 things. We rolled out in 2019. It was me, my husband, because he had, an operational background. I did not. He was like, someone's got to help you out with this because I'm a dreamer. I'm a creator. I'm I dream in color and texture, but I can't run a spreadsheet. I can't run a company. That's not what I do. So, he helped me. He helped me out and we kind of put a couple things together. So it was just him and I. We had one person working for us who did we all did every job. And then it just with the support of these amazing retailers and a whole lot of storytelling, it grew, got a little bit bigger, our website got put together. Then our biggest break came in 2020 with Sephora. And that's when things really started to pick up, is when we were put in touch with Sephora.
And what was the product that Sephora brought in, or was it a range of products? How did that introduction happen and how did that continue to grow? Because you're in how many doors now of Sephora?
We're in their full fleet now.
Yeah.
We're in I think it's 500 plus doors across the country. It's funny how it started. So for us, it started online only. And, I knew that they liked the brand. I knew that they liked the products, but space is extremely competitive in this environment, as you can imagine. So it was kind of let's see what happens online. And then if it's working out, then we'll, you kind of graduate to stores.
Right.
So that was my experience. We launched in March of 2020, right when COVID hit. So it was
great timing.
A complete nightmare.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I'm never getting into stores. Everybody was buying toilet paper and hand sanitizer for the first month,
Right.
Until we figured it out. We thought we could get it from a door handle. We were washing our groceries.
Right. You're like, the
So
last thing anyone needs is eye cream, but buy the eye cream.
right,
Yeah.
right. The people are just like frantically trying to stockpile their TP and
Yep.
like their, Tylenol medicine, whatever it
Right.
is. So it was a disaster. The launch was like a complete bust. I mean, it was the first like 3 months, we weren't selling anything. And I'm just like, okay, I'm done. Like I'm never gonna make it into stores. And then around July of 2020, you have people all across the country working remotely,
Mhm.
looking at themselves on a Zoom call all day long.
Right.
And
And it's not pretty.
for you, it is, but
No.
not for everybody else. But it's just people are starting to focus in. They're like, I don't like that dark spot, or
Mhm.
why do I have these wrinkles? And
Yep.
and we had this like kind of online skincare boom, second half of 2020, and everybody was just really into self-care, healthcare,
Yeah.
and we were there for it. So sales picked up, at the end of the year, and then I think it was like mid 2021 that they came to me and said, you're ready to go into stores.
So actually, that probably was a benefit for you to be testing online during that time when people weren't going into stores, because that would have been
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
if I was a small brand in stores at that point, I
you're
probably
done.
never would have made it because everybody struggled with like in-person interaction and stuff. So it was, look, it's like you have to have good ideas, you have to work hard, you have to have passion. A lot of this is luck and timing too. I like I believe in that, the timing has to be right for certain things. So that timing actually was right, but we got into stores. I would say it was like the end of 21, early 22, and I'm thinking like, okay, they're going to put me in 5 doors, 10 doors, 20 doors, but we did roll out a full fleet.
Mhm.
So we're in this section of Sephora called the Next Big Thing wall. And it's like beautifully curated section with indie, up and coming, or just kind of smaller brands that haven't quite gotten to the size of like having your whole entire space, on the wall. So we got in the Next Big Thing and we started with 4 inches. And I remember I was like, what products am I going to put in here? Because each one of my products is like 3 inches.
Right.
So
And
I
it
could
literally is the inches. So they're saying we're giving you 4 inches.
Yeah. So I had like, I could fit like 1.5 products. And I
Right.
remember like going in and I was like turning them sideways and stacking them like horizontally and vertically. I'm like, how can I get as many products as possible?
In these 4 inches. Yeah.
It's a brilliant plan because they're very good partners to you and they roll you out slowly. Like as a new brand in stores, like tons of space in all locations. It's hard to make that. Like
Right.
it's hard to, you need a lot of investment for that. You need a bigger team for that. So it's kind of genius, this onboarding, that they do with these
Yeah.
indie younger family-owned businesses or smaller brands to kind of like stepping stones, right?
Mhm.
And then
Test the market.
you test the market. You go from 4 inches to 8 inches, 8 inches to 12. And like as the brand does well, you are able to roll out, you grow your customer base, you fine tune like
Yeah.
some of the things that could be like stronger messaging, and it just kind of starts to happen that way. So that was my experience. And yeah, now we're like 3 feet, 36 inches. So we have like a nice presence in that wall. And yeah, sometimes I'm just like, how is this happening? Because I go into that store and I'm like, wow, I'm a family owned business that we literally hand harvest our own ingredients. And I'm
Right.
sitting next to like these behemoth, like, Estee Lauder, Procter and Gamble,
Right.
L'Oreal, like big brands. And it feels kind of sometimes like a David and Goliath thing, kind of.
But that's incredible. And I guess that, such a tribute to what you're doing, Kendra, and your vision and following it through. But here talk about messaging, right? And what messaging is working. And, at the core of your business and your brand, really, it is about wildcrafting and sustainability. And do you think that's what has helped differentiate your brand? I mean, I know there's others who are saying they do that as well, but how do you go from 4 inches to 36 inches, with those other brands that are out there talking about that as well?
I think you have to have a point of difference. We are clean clinicals and wild plants. So that's our point of difference. It's a combination of those two things that we believe in as a brand are the most effective for healthy, youthful, glowing skin. But I think that you have to have, I think everybody likes storytelling behind their products. They want to know, like, how did the brand come to be? What are the ethos of the brand? Who is the founder? What are their beliefs? Are they doing anything to give back? Like, I think the customer today just wants as much transparency as possible. And, a brand that was invented by a bunch of marketers and bankers and brought to market to make a quick buck, like, the consumer can see through that
Yes.
today. So
Yep.
I think our strength lies in, we've always been very authentic to who we are. We came from a very organic place. We started in a little beauty store in a little mountain town.
Yeah.
The first product was shipped out of an apartment above a garage. Like, we have that storytelling, that point of authenticity. And then our give back initiative is what's the most important thing to me. And I think it's very important to our clients as well. And that is a percentage of every sale goes to national park restoration,
Mm-hmm.
because we harvest these wild plants. We do it sustainably. So they're continuing to grow. They're never removed from the ground. It's like we're not killing anything. However, it is important to protect that those national parks, because that's their home. That is the health of any wild plant that grows. They're anchored in those national parks. Like, everything's connected under the earth. All these trees and plants and root systems are holding hands. So the national parks, for us, making sure they have restoration dollars to keep the indigenous flora intact, to keep the animal habitats grounded, versus like just when they get funding, building more visitor centers. Like,
Yeah.
we're funding the restoration of the parks versus the commercialization of them. And nobody else is really funding that. And when I partnered with our local national park, the Grand Teton National Park Foundation, they showed me in person 5,000 acres of this park that was actually destroyed by the early settlers, because they came in homesteading with their wagons and they needed to, like, rip up all the indigenous and native sagebrush, and they planted smooth broom grass for their cattle. But smooth broom, it's like football field
Huh.
grass.
Yeah.
It's an invasive species. So it's spread over 5,000 acres of the park. And I saw this devastation. And I mean, it looks beautiful to
Right.
the eye because it's gorgeous. It's like green grass. That's not what's supposed to be there. And the animals can't sleep there and take shelter in it. And they don't eat that type of grass. So we partnered with them to pull up all of that football field grass and replant the native shrubs and flora that were supposed to be there. And
Wow.
with our partnership, the organization is fantastic, but they've been able to restore 1,100 acres already of that 5,000 damaged acres.
That's
So
amazing. How many years has that taken place?
it's been going on for about 10 years. They've been working on this restoration, because you plant seeds. Well, first you have to pull up all the old grass, then you have to plant seeds. And like, it takes a long time for this stuff to catch. And
Right.
then once it's anchored, it takes many, many years on top of it for it to grow. Like,
Right.
think about growing a bush that is hip height or even knee height on us. That doesn't grow in 6 months or a
Yeah.
year. Like,
Yeah.
it's years for that. So the project's been going on for 10 years. And with our contribution, it's been able to accelerate that reforestation. And then as soon as we're done with our local park here in the Grand Teton National Park, we're going to just start marching across the country to other national parks that are in need of rewilding or restoration donations, because there's a lot of need. And again, like, the government doesn't really fund that. It's more like some things that we're funding for the park. So
I love that, because it's like the analogy or the comparison to you grew from 3 inches or 4 inches at Sephora, and you're, 36 inches, and you're started in the Tetons, and now you're growing out with inches and miles and all these acres. That's so awesome. It's got to feel really good that you've been able to make such an impact.
it's I think for me, it's like, when this is all said and done, like what did I give back is always like on the forefront of my mind. And like, yes, we gave people gorgeous skin, we made people more comfortable, we gave them hydration, we gave them, that self-confidence, but it's it's like what did the brand, whenever you have a CPG brand, you're
Yeah.
putting things into the universe. It's
Yes.
like there's packaging, there's paper, we use all glass, so it's 100% recyclable, but still I'm consuming, like I'm using resources. So it's like, how do you make that relationship circular where you are in a place where you're giving back anything that you are consuming? So it's more even, and it's like a real relationship where it's like give and take, just take. So that has been really important to me personally. And that's really important to our customer. And I think they stand behind us, in that sustainability initiative. And that has contributed to the growth as well.
Absolutely. Well, I think it also stems from not only, the foundation of the brand itself, but I also think about your name, Alpyn Beauty, and what that stands for. And you and I were talking about it a little bit before we started, but I'd love for our listeners, because I think it's such a beautiful image when you think about Alpyn. So will you tell us a little bit about the
It is like so stunning. So coming from New York, when I moved to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, I noticed that in the morning and the evening, there was this pink, purpley light that just comes over the mountains, and the whole town, it almost is like it glows pink. And I used to run outside and be like, what is this light? Like it looks like something out of a Disney fairy tale. And one of the locals here was like, oh, that's Alpyn Glow. That's called Alpyn Glow, and it's spelled ALPENGLOW. It doesn't only happen in Jackson Hole, but it happens in mountainous regions. The Alps have beautiful Alpyn Glow, but this light kind of comes at dawn and dusk. And when we started wildcrafting the plants, as the pink light moved in, we would stop the harvest because that is like the plant's happy hour. And we just started calling it like, oh, Alpyn's here, Alpyn Glow. And then it just kind of translated into the name of the products because that pink purpley light was very inspirational to me. Just symbolized lots of things, life change,
Yeah.
metamorphosis, sky changing, transition of day to night. Like it symbolized a lot of things to me. So the brand name was Alpyn Beauty after Alpyn Glow. And then it's spelled with an E, but we made it Y for Wyoming. I liked the way the Y looked in the logo, and we kind of just dipped it down. So it was an ode to Wyoming.
I love it. And then that translates into the actual product, because the glow, let's talk about some of your hero products. As I told you, the new Instant Eye Brightener and Glow is a phenomenal product. So along with all of your others, but what would you say is your hero product? What are you most proud of? And what are the standout products?
So there's a couple, and like all of them were accidents, I have to be honest. So Ghostberry is a barrier repair cream. That's a really buttery, dense, thick moisturizer. And I knew I had wanted a moisturizer, that would work on inflamed or just like redness, eczema, irritation, because everybody out here is dry and sensitive. Everybody's just really sensitive. And I was stumbled into this Ghostberry, which is this little white, it's also called snowberry, but it's all over our property here in Jackson Hole. And I would be harvesting other things like arnica and borage and sage. And I kept running into this white berry called Ghostberry. So I started to research the plant, and I actually found that it is an antiseptic, anti-inflammatory plant with lots of anti-inflammatory properties. And the indigenous would actually like rub this Ghostberry as a poultice in wounds or cuts when they couldn't go to the store to do like get Neosporin or Polysporin. They would have to use plants as medicine. So I kind of just bumped into it, and I'm like, wow, I want to do a barrier repair cream. I can't get away from this like white berry that is all over my yard. This white berry has anti-inflammatory, antiseptic properties. Like this is like, that's how things kind of came together for me. So We did neuropeptides because I'm a clinical girl through and through, love a neuropeptide, threw that in there, tested and harvested this ghost berry in like our discovery lab here on the property. Results were off the chart. So that went into the barrier repair cream. And that is our number one selling product to date. A total accident, by
Yeah.
the way. So Ghostberry is number one. Number two is this Instant Bright Eye that you were just talking about.
Love.
So it
Yep.
launched, yeah, it came out on March 25th. It sold out 2 times on Sephora before April 10th, which is like, as a founder, it's the best and worst thing. Like, it's great that like people want it, but then
Right.
it's sold out for an entire week. And you're like, oh my gosh, so many people aren't able to get it
Right.
right now. Like, this is such a double-edged sword, but that is doing really well for us. And then we have like a pore perfecting liquid exfoliant, which is really great for blackheads, congestion, but we offset that 2% salicylic acid with wild borage, which is also a very soothing, calming plant. So if you have like the clinical is 2% sal acid, you put in a plant that soothes and calms the skin, it just creates like the perfect balance because you're getting those clinical treatments with the like edges trimmed off, if that makes sense. So yeah, there's a lot and it kind of just changes all. We're a very young brand. So it kind of changes. Like sometimes things pop up out of nowhere, something will go viral, and then all of a sudden that's like the top seller, but it kind of like bebops around.
Well, and I was going to ask because how do your consumers and their feedback influence your creations and how are you engaging with the consumer because you're in these retailers, you have e-com, but what's the strongest platform and avenue for you to be able to get that consumer feedback?
I think our social media. So we are very, very transparent with our community on social media. When summer comes along, we show them the harvest. We talk about the plants. We communicate a lot with them through DMs, and we take, people say, everyone's saying right now you need a sunscreen. So we're working on a sunscreen formula. So we take their product suggestions and ideas. We also have a Facebook group called Alpyn Insiders, and anybody can join, but we do a lot of product testing through that group. So if I'm working on a formula, I'll put it on Alpyn Insiders and I'll be like, who wants a sample to test like a face serum for 30 days? And the only thing you have to do is just give your feedback after 30 days.
That's
So
so
we
great.
incorporate our community into product formulations, names. We ask them to look at logos. Like they're almost like our little internal marketing
Yeah.
group, that we listen to because I think it's really important that the consumer have a voice and nobody knows our brand better than the people who buy it.
It's so true. And to be able to do that, I think so many brands talking to the consumer, but to be able to have that conversation with them and make them feel like they're a part of it is really what's going to make you stand out and has made you stand out.
Thank you. No, I think it's really important. And also, I can't see what they can see. Like, I am so close to this. Sometimes it's hard for me to step back and look at it from an outsider's lens, and I'm not calling our community outsiders, but they're not like in the process of making things. It's like
Right.
they're looking at it from a whole new perspective and just a different vantage point that I don't have the luxury of having. And I
Of
want
course.
that. So
Right.
listening to the way that they perceive, certain messaging, like the way that things sound, like it's of utmost importance to us as a brand, and it always has been.
And it's going to continue to allow you to grow. So here you started, as we talked about, you started in your backyard to create this brand and you started local and then you grew and grew and grew. So where do you see yourself continuing to grow? Where is Alpyn going to go from here and into the future? What are some things you're excited about?
There's so many things I'm excited about. We're rolling out into Canada for the first time at the end of this year. So we'll
Great.
be doing our first international expansion. Other retailers have approached us, about partnerships. For me, it's about, as the brand grows, my donation capabilities grow and we're able to make more progress on the current initiatives that we're working on. So for me, when I think about this brand being successful, I see us having donated reforestation dollars to like the top 50 national parks in the country. Or actually, let's go the other route. Let's go the bottom 50 because the top 50 are already funded. Like the bottom 50.
Yeah, they need it the most.
They need it the most.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's kind of where I see this brand going, is like, if we can just continue with that initiative and really make a change for the better while giving people good skin, that's cool.
And product extensions. I mean, you're covering so much currently, but are there other categories or other areas that are of interest to you?
Oh, so many areas of interest. I love hair care. I could put some of these plants in like amazing, beautiful hair products, makeup. I know enough to be dangerous about makeup. You can see I have not a stitch of makeup on my face.
But you're gorgeous without it. You don't need it.
Good skincare. Well, I'm the skincare girl. But these plants could go into makeup. I mean, I see so many opportunities down the road. It's just like at this point, we haven't really even like started with skincare yet. So we're just taking one thing at a time. But yeah, you could put this ingredient complex in anything, really.
Well, just keep on your hikes and discovering new plants and ingredients, because it feels like from your social media, I mean, that's what I've seen. And it is amazing to see what is literally in your backyard. And you've taken this and created this brand. And it's working. So,
thank you. Kate, I really appreciate it, because some days you just feel like you're hanging on by a thread, I mean, it's like, we try to be everything. We try to be good mothers, good business owners, good partners, it's like, sometimes you just think, how can I possibly maintain or sustain this?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I can't do this anymore. And then I get inspiration when people tell me, oh my gosh, your products made my skin feel so good. And like, you're doing things, and like, thank you for your reforestation. And like, that's where I get my inspiration to keep going. But it's not easy. Like nothing comes easy. It's like, it can be a grind, but thank you for saying that. And just thank you for everything that you taught me over the years. And going back to the PR, I tell everybody, I'm like, good PR, like knowing how to tell a story to somebody is the foundation for any successful career. It's like knowing how to read the room, knowing how to tell a story, knowing how to package up something that could be paragraphs into a few words.
Sound bites. Yeah.
Such a skill set. And you helped me with that a lot over the years. So thank you.
You were a natural, and clearly you've been able to take everything that we did together and blossom and grow this incredible brand. And I don't want to take more of your time up, but I do want to ask you, for those entrepreneurs that are out there, you discovered this in your backyard and you took a small plant and grew it. But what would be your advice for entrepreneurs who are just starting their business and have those, challenges or those worries that I'm not going to be able to do it? What would be your greatest advice?
I would say believe in yourself and do not give up. We get in our own way a lot, and that little voice in your head is going to tell you multiple times, can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. You have to learn how to ignore that voice, when self-doubt sets in, because anybody can do anything. Okay. Like if I started this brand from an apartment above a garage and I'm now in 545 Sephora doors across the country, you can do that too. It is believe in yourself, find something that can make a difference in people's lives and has a point of difference. Like that's the biggest thing. It's like, if you're solving your own problem, chances are you're solving other people's too.
Yeah.
So like, what is that idea that just keeps like gnawing at you? Like, it would be great if somebody made this. It'd be great if somebody made this. Make it, like you can do it. You can do it too. And tell people all the time, like, it's like, just get knocked down and you got to stand back up. And like, it's like, because sometimes it's that like 15th time that you stood up that you don't get knocked down again. So it's like, it's always around the corner. And I was told no by hundreds of people, you can't do this. Manufacturers, they said, we don't take wild plants from the mountains. We just, use plants in the powder form. Like everybody told me no, in the beginning. And I just believed in it and I kept going. And if I can do it, you can do it too, is what my
Oh,
message would be.
I love it. Well, you're such a fighter and you're such a force, and I'm so proud of you. And I'm just so excited to watch the continuation of this journey of, again, what started from a little plant and it's grown into this incredible business. So, Kendra, thank you so much for taking the time. And it is such a pleasure. And everyone out there, all of our listeners, go find Alpyn Beauty online, in store. You too can be glowing just like Kendra is.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kendra.
If you want to learn a little bit more about Traub, you can go to traub.io, where you'll learn a lot about everything that we do. If you're enjoying the safari, please do share it with your friends and colleagues within the industry. And please also don't forget to subscribe and like it. Until next time.